Okay? That's a review. Are there any questions about what I just went over? DHE. Remember, so I should have, oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't say this. I have one dictionary that I typically bring, right? I have one American Heritage Dictionary I typically bring. I went to the Hyattsville Regional Library. It's a regional branch of the Prince George's library system, okay? It's like one of the main branches, I guess. And they have a little bookstore of used books downstairs. I've been going to that lot because it's right by one of the sites I teach at. So I've been going to that particular library for a while now. Never gone in the bookstore. I go in, the lady in there, or the woman in there tells me about the system, how the books are cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. I found 2 of these American Heritage Dictionaries, and each of them were $1. And she actually gave them to me for 50 cents each. Therefore, I got 2 dictionaries for $1. So I only say that to say that for those of us who don't have dictionaries, finance should never be an issue, because if you really want it, you can manifest it in the price that you can afford. So I encourage everybody to go out to those used bookstores and look for those dictionaries, because this is the dictionary that will tell you the Indo-European roots. American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language. And of course, our dictionary has, this is the family, so look in the back of your dictionary for those who have one. However, if I looked up the word fiction, or I looked up the word factory, then I will see the definitions, because they give you more than one definition. And at the bottom, I'm looking for who remembers? At the bottom of the dictionary, the brackets. You're looking in the brackets. And that's where you can find the Indo-European root. And it'll be in bold print, and it'll say, see Appendix 1. So it'll say the Indo-European root, then it'll say, see Appendix 1. You turn to the back and look at the appendix, and you look up DHE. It says, oh, to make, to do. And then it gives you the various cognates, which is what we're going to go over today. So does that clarify? Yep. All right, great. I'll erase this. So today I want to show you how languages change, how words and cognates change form. And first we have to start with what we call phonology. Using your word parts, what is phonology? It has to do with phonetics, but what is the root that you, what are the word parts that you see in phonology? Phone, phono or phone, which means, refers to sound. Phonics, your phone, obviously, telephone. This is study, the study of. So the study of sounds. In particular, we're looking at the study of sounds in language. So we classify sounds. When you're learning how to read, or when you're even learning the alphabet, you classify those sounds in the alphabet in 2 ways. What are the 2 ways we classify them? Vowels and consonants, right? So we're going to look at consonants because we classify consonants as well. So we're going to look at how to classify consonants. And by the way, this is on Abdullah's website, which is moorishcivilliter.net. So you can also refer to a chart which tells you how to classify the consonants. So when we say the consonant sounds, we use certain parts of our mouth, okay? We use either our lips, which we would identify as consonants that are labials. We use our teeth, classified as dentals. And we use our throat, which we classify as gutturals. Okay? Let's take a consonant. Someone give me one consonant. Okay, what's the sound? What did I use? Lips was primary. So F is a labial. Give me another one. Huh? B. B. What did I use? Lips. What else? P. What did I use? So where would it go? Labial. R. What am I using? That's if it's at the end. What about T? What about S? Z. Z. V. Labial, right. So like I said, Abdullah has a chart where this is all laid out. In addition to identifying labials, dentals, and gutturals, they also identify, is the sound voiced or is it not voiced? Is it a plosive? Is it a fricative? So those are additional ways to classify the consonants, but we're going to stick with this as a basis, right? So keep that concept in mind. Again, this is something that you could teach your children when they're learning the alphabet. They don't have to be, in a linguistics class to understand this concept. They can learn this at the same time that they're learning the alphabet. So I encourage those who have grandchildren or young children to engage in instruction in that format. However, the reason why we do this is because there are different ways that words or cognates, so these would all be like cognates, okay? This is a cognates of D-H-E, okay? The cognates, if you notice, they change from one cognate to the next, but there's a pattern, okay? So we have one pattern where we look at the consonants, how they may change. This isn't a great example because we don't really have consonants changing too much here. What we do have, though, are vowels. The vowels change from I to A, okay? So that's one thing you look at when you're looking at a list of cognates. Look at, well, how do the vowels change? Starting from my original Indo-European root, then I look at the cognates. I look at how the vowels change. Secondly, I look at how the consonants change. And based on how they change, like if I go from B to F, then it's changed in its own class of labials, okay? If I change, and so let's look at some words. Let's look at some words that give that example. The word bear, as in to bear somebody's sympathies, bear one another's sympathies and sorrows, right? Meaning to carry the pains that somebody else feels. In Latin, F-E-R-R-E means to bear, which is where we get, as a root, take off the R-E, we have F-E-R. So think about the word transfer. That means to carry across. So that is a system where I look and I see, oh, I have two labials here. I went from, well, it actually started here. I went from one labial to the next, though. That's the point that you need to note. That is how words and cognates change over time. They change in form through a systematic manner, okay? So that's a slight example. I could also look at the word brother, and what is the Latin word for brother? Think about people who are in, yes, I was just about to say that. Think about people who join organizations when they're in college. The men, right, fraternal, right? I could also do from P to F. That changes, those are both labials as well, right? Now think about pater or paternity. Pater is what? Father. Okay. We classified consonants, correct? Let's classify what we call digraphs as well. Digraphs are when I take two consonants and I put them together, but they make one sound. For example, for non-example, I'm going to show you a non-example. If I put S and K together, you can hear the S in the K. Like if I say skate, you hear sk. So you hear both of them, right? But if I put SH together, I always tell my students, this doesn't say so, it says sh. So I put these two together, it makes one sound. That's called a digraph. It's called a consonant digraph. That's something that I teach when I teach phonetics to my younger students. Okay, but we're going to classify those as well. SH, TH, and CH. Okay, let's look at TH in particular. What do I use for TH? All right. Oh, well, we see that the P and the F changed, and that's in the same class, right? Excuse me. But then the T changed here to what? To TH. Isn't that in the same class? Okay. So that, as you can see, there's a systematic way that words change over time. Study the system, and you will be able to identify word meanings more quickly than from when we first started our etymology lessons. So this is just adding on to the keys. So if somebody asks, well, there's so much that I have to learn, so many words I have to relearn, but we're showing you the system so that it's easier. And as you all, as I've been saying, I really don't like to say what I'm going to do. I'd rather just do it. But I'm going to say on tape that I will have my book finished by June of 2015. So for all those who are concerned, oh my goodness, I have to teach all of this to my children, to my grandchildren, to my nieces and nephews, or yourself, you have to learn all these words in a different way. You're feeling overwhelmed. Well, my goal is to have a teaching tool to assist you in that. So, give me your good vibes while I work on this, All right, so. Can somebody let me know my time? If that's... Okay, all right. So I'll just show you a couple briefly, and this actually coincides with how I plan to, or how I am writing my book. Not plan to, I've been started, but. So let's start with, one thing I would do is I would look at roots that have similar meanings. So this is my first category. I would call it the category of writing, or really just conveying information. Okay. Yep, it is. Thank you. Okay, so I teach it this way so that you just remember a list of roots, but they all fall under this category. So we want to categorize roots by similar meanings. The first Indo-European root I'm going to look at is L-E-G. And in your book, in your dictionary, it will more than likely say L-E-G-1. That's a subscript 1, because there's two roots that are L-E-G, and they have different meanings. So we want to make sure we're referring to the first one. It means to gather. What are some of the cognates? In Latin, we have the word legere, okay? And from there, we get L-E-G-E. and L-E-C-T. Now, we see how we got the L-E-G, correct? How did we get the C-T? How do you think we got that? They're both g, g, g. And then they added on a letter. Then they added the T. You can also have L-E-C. So now let's think of all the words, and then also Latin L-E-G-A-R-E. Okay, gives you same L-E-G, L-E-C-T, L-E-C, etc. Also in Latin, it gives you have this word, lex. Once again, the X, it sounds like KS. It's a guttural. Once again, the G guttural, the C, and the X, and the C is really a K. It makes the K sound, right? Okay, so now let's think of words that have these roots. We've only looked at Latin cognates. We haven't even gotten to the Greek yet. We're looking at the Latin cognates. L-E-G, L-E-C-T, L-E-C, and L-E-X. So now let's think of words that have that particular meaning, or that particular root. Sorry, let me erase this. Hopefully you wrote down the lex. I just didn't have enough room. So I hear collect. What else? Lecture. What else? Election. Lexicon. Now that is actually Greek. So you're going to see that when we get to the Greek words, the Greek cognates rather, but it still falls under the same Indo-European root. I also have legend, legible, legion, elegant, neglect, diligent, and for lex, I have, for lex, let me put lex back up here. So Latin, we have lex. You also have L-E-G-I-S. So that's where you have legislature, legislation. I have the word legal. Excuse me? Loyal is one, yes. If you're looking in the Indo-European roots part of the dictionary, it gives you the whole list, and that's great. I want you to do that. So I keep saying bring your dictionaries, right? So that's great. Loyal is also in there. Just looking at my notes, any other ones I want to mention. Delegate. Delegate, okay. Now, and relegate, yes. Put that up there too. Okay, when they say to gather, what they're referring to is gathering information. So for lex, referring to law, they're gathering information about the law. And then what do? Once you gather the information, you have it written out or you speak upon it. For lecture, it refers to a gathering of information that I'm getting ready to share. Let me see, collect, that in itself shows you gathering. So when they refer to gathering, they're talking about a gathering of information that one goes and speaks upon, or one goes and writes about. Are there any questions so far? And now let me show you the Greek. So for Greek, it comes from the Greek word L-E-G-E-I-N, which gives us, well, no, religion is a different root. Religion is L-I-G, which means to bind, like ligament. So religion actually means to bind back. And it's great you said that because religion refers to binding back to the original principles upon which your ancient forefathers and foremothers lived upon this earth.
Sounds like etymology to me.
Because it's the truth. It's the root. It's the etymon. So religion and etymology go hand in hand. But as I digress, from the Greek, we get L-O-G-U-E. Epilogue, dialogue. If I have a dialogue, it's you and I are having a conversation. We're speaking about something. It could be a dialogue in writing as well. If you look in a play and you look at the dialogue, you're reading what the author has written of two people having a conversation. Okay? Catalog is another one. And then also, remember I told you LEX, for the Greek, it gives you dyslexia, which is you don't have the dyslexia, not able to do what? Read. Read what? Something that's written. Something that's written based upon information that's gathered together and written it down in a format that you guys can gain information. Because that's the whole point. This root has to do with gathering and gaining knowledge. Okay? Questions about that? No. And then I believe I probably have time for one more. And this one has a similar meaning. Once again, like I said, I present them to where the meanings are similar. So this one also means to write. And this root, if I have time for three, I would do three, but we'll see. This root, Indo-European root, G-E-R-B-H. And it means to scratch. Now, before I even go further, what does that have to do with writing? That's another Indo-European root that I wanted to get to. But when you scratch, you are actually writing something. To write something, you have to make a scratch. If it was on the ground, if I didn't have paper, I'm literally making a scratch in the ground. Or even on a single sheet of paper, and I'm making a scratch on the paper, okay? To scratch. So here in Greek, we have G-A-R-P-H-E-I-N, which gives us, yes, graph, which means to write. Now think of all the words that have graph in it, besides just the word graph. I always get that. Telegraph, photograph, sonograph, stenograph, graphics, polygraph, autograph. What's an autograph? It's and who wrote it? Yourself, because auto means self. What's a biography? No, because graph isn't study. I didn't say biology. Biography. Right, writing about a life. And if I add auto in front of that, then I'm writing about my own life. Right. And then you also have, you also get G-R-A-M-M-A, which is where you get G-R-A-M, gram. So like telegram. Grammar. Huh? Program, correct. Etc. Okay? These words all have the same Indo-European root. And then let's notice, what happened here? How did I go from G-E-R-B-H to graph? So let's just look at those. How did it change in form? You can just look at it and kind of see certain key things that took place. What happened? Well, this part right here, right? But it's a B to, what sound does PH make? F. They're in the same classification. That's the first thing that took place. So it went from the B to an F. What else happened? G-E-R-B-H. I'll write it over here so we can see it. I went from G-E-R-B-H to graph. Well, the E wasn't taken out, but it was changed to what? To A. So the vowel changed. So I had a vowel shift from E to A. I had a consonant change within its own class from B to F. And there's one more thing that took place. Well, I started off G-E-R, but I ended up G-R-A. So what happened to that R? Huh? The order, okay? Next class, I want to have a handout for you. I left my computer at home. So next class, I'll have a handout for you. But each of these changes has a particular name. And which one? The last one I said? The order change. So from ER to, it's not E anymore, but RA. So the R is in the front. Metastasizing. Oh, metastasis. Where the THEIS means place, and meta means change. Thus it's THE right here, place, change. So the state of changing, its place, is what happened here. The R changed to its position. From E to A, that's called umlaut. Umlaut. U-M-L-A-U-T. So this is for vowel changes. Okay. This metathesis is for just changing the position. So I moved from the second letter to the third letter. And this one, correct me if I'm wrong, is permutation from B to F.
Yeah,
permutation.
B to F?
Uh-huh. It's in the same class.
That's the
Trans, okay. Trans. Okay, transmutation is when you're changing the consonants based on class. That's where if I was saying B to F, because it's in the same class, it's changing, that's called transmutation. If I just change the vowel, that's called umlaut, and if I'm changing the position, it's called metathesis. However, like I said, I have a write-up of all of it, which will be in my book, but I'll also give you all a copy. So when you guys come next class, I will have a handout for each one of you so that you can go home and get that into your mind and memorize it. Any questions? None? And I would like to, if I have time, one more. I'd like to do one more. So, yes.
So is that what it did with all other languages?
Say that one more time.
Is that what happened to all other Latin derived languages, like French, German, all of them?
Did they go through the same process?
Yes.
Yes, all languages that are under the family of Indo-European languages, they all follow the same method.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Good question. All right. And so, yes, like I said, I'll do one more. It's funny because we talked about this, but a lot of people think that English is a Latin-based language, but it is not. It's a Germanic language. However, you can see how words have changed from the Germanic language subgroup to the Latin language subgroup and vice versa. You could see the changes that took place if you study the method that we're showing you this evening. All right, so the last one I want to show you is SKRIBH, which means to cut, sift, scratch, which eventually brings us to write. So I heard some people saying it, but it sounds like you can tell what the Latin cognate would be. You get scribe. You also get script. Okay, what changed? Let's look at the first spelling. Right. However, it's still the same sound. We're just looking at The letters, you know, the letters only, I won't say only. When we're learning how to read in school, we should be taught that letters represent a sound. So both C and K can represent the same sound. Also, C and S can represent the same sound. It's just depending on what comes after that C. Like if I have CA, it's going to make a K sound. If I have CO, K. But if I have CE, CY, or CI, it makes the S sound. I mean, think of any word. If I said no, that's wrong. If I say conceive, conceive. Say it again. Celtic. That's a good point. So what I would say is you have to look at its mother. You have to look at the language from which it comes. Because I'm saying this based off of what we understand in English. However, different words are pronounced different ways in different languages. So that's a good point that you point out there, though. Sense. C-E-N-T-S. So that's the C-E, it sounds like an S. Right? If I say fact, sounds like a sounds like a K, because the only ones that sound like S will be like this. Everything else sounds like K. That's just something that, once again, I teach my students. So I mentioned that only to say that there really wasn't anything that changed in the sound from scrib here to scribe here. If anything that changed, now this is where your phonetics comes in, your phonics skills. What's the difference between this word and this word? Say it. What's this word? Rid and ride. So what's the only difference when you say it? Just when you say it, not how it looks, but when you say it. Long and short. Rid is short. Ride is long. These are your diacritical marks to let you know which is which. So the only thing that I would say that's different is the way that this is written like scrib. But this is written as scribe. The only thing that's different here to me from what I've noticed is the way that vowel sounds. Remember, we're not looking at what it looks like. We're looking for what it sounds like. What it sounds like, okay? So scrib to scribe. Now, going back from scrib to script, what has changed?
United States and the Sultan of Morocco on September 16th, 1836. The treaty was concluded for 50 years and was to continue in effect thereafter until denounced by one of the parties on a 12-month notice. Think about that, gang. Mm-hmm. Think about that. So the sister back here, I'm sorry, I forget your name, in the pink. She was indicating that we got a lot to learn. We all agree. Tosh, yep. Pretty sure definitely agree. But that's where we need to get to. Whereas we collectively can come together and place that notice, put it into play, and indicate, hey, look, it's time for y'all to go. So again, that information is from the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Miscellaneous Documents Memorandum, House of Representatives, 80th Congress, 1947.
And they can't pretend they don't know.
Exactly.
But you notice they don't never go there.
No, they're not gonna.
Yes.
Everyone, Islam, give Brother Taj a great round of applause.
Peace. Give Sister Selah and Brother Abdullah a hand. It ain't enough time, is it? In relationship to, sis, you know, because you know, a lot of times when we're discussing the social dynamics, and people call them crazy and say that's crazy, and we keep telling them don't do that. Yeah. And then when we're talking about politicians or either even brothers who are politicians or in the political realm and they're acting like they don't know, what Brother Mason Bay just read demonstrates again and backs up what Obama said in relationship to the United States and Morocco. And then people keep on acting like, you know, this is some kind of difficult information for them to understand when we're the foundation of this whole thing. It's just that our people aren't aware of themselves. You know, but in relationship to some of the comments that were made earlier in relative to the Europeans corrupting language or using connotative linguistics, I'm just going to read a little bit of information from Executive Order 11490, training manual, technical research manual, and this is based on them eliminating some other people that were claiming to be somebody that they're not, and they use that same paradigm to apply to these people today. It's called King Alfred Plan. Executive Order 11490, Rex 84. And this is back to, and I would be well, and though our time was kind of limited, I was showing it to Selah earlier, and I was wanting you to respond to that, you know, et cetera. But for the time being, I'm just going to read a page, energy. Now let's look at this and pay attention to this, to the politics that very few people ever discuss, but it is known amongst all politicians and all so-called leader guys and all so-called PhDs and people with titles. Energy. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy. And social science, theoretically, expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science. And the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. The end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue: who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called, quote-unquote, moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, quote unquote, wealth, and of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hand of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operations and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name, quote unquote, silent weapons. And that's what they call King Alfred, silent weapons for quiet wars. And when you look at the dynamics of them trying to justify the corruption of connotative linguistics, it is a silent war tactic. And this is also the danger of our people not knowing that history and law goes together, because they allow their thought patterns to be molded by popular opinion, by people making ridiculous statements of justifying or trying to rationalize that words don't mean what they mean. and you can make them mean whatever translation. That's where they got the fictional operations of COINTELPRO operations of getting certain persons in certain communities to create this dynamic called ebonics to guarantee that these children can't compete, but it looks like they're being Afrocentric. Yeah, right. Anyone who knows language knows it's a fraud. And anyone that knows the military strategies for human engineering knows that that's B. Eskidorf. Good, brother.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just came across a movie not too long ago that kind of described, what you were talking about just now. And I would like to recommend it to, whoever want to see it. The movie title is The Giver. I don't know who's seen it, who hasn't, but, it's a good movie that you really need to look at and, The Giver.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on what he was talking about as far as control and, yes.
And, and it's still back to the principle, where even when you listening to our people talk about these problems, right? They keep talking about the Europeans American. He's not American. That's part of the paradigm. That's one of the first indicators that they're asleep. And then when they start saying, he brought us here, this is another game. The fact that the whole paradigm that they have set up, we keep falling for, etc. And also, and one of the beautiful things about, the fact that Selah has been encouraging us to bring our dictionaries. And that's a rule of order. But yet at the same time, we don't do it. But again, at the same time, if the people were going to schools for the Europeans, they pay them finance, come out of school in debt, and they'd bring their dictionaries and then not use them too. Anyhow, because they don't. But again, we can't say enough. You're just excellent. And we're just so pleased, really, because she makes it so easy. And it's probably good, too, because she's a woman and she's teaching children, so she comes with that energy of wanting them to develop. And so it just like comes out natural. And then that sincerity on top of it, I know you're all glad because she just makes it flow. And Sean was back there. Damn. Love that sister, boy. But it's true. Hey, we're hard to impress, and we're impressed. Thank you. Huh? Excuse me, who's speaking? Go ahead.
Islam. The King Arthur Alfred.
King
Alfred.
This is Silent Weapon, King Alfred. This is executive order. This is when you're looking at the concentration camps, everything. And, their systems are breaking it into regions, how they're dumbing the children down in school, how they're giving them junk food. I mean, they're talking blunt, but this is basically was originally a top secret manual just for Europeans and for military. But one of the important points about this is that a lot of the so-called leader guys have this information and constantly sit around talking about racism instead of the genocide structure. And they always miss this particular part. They always miss this particular part concerning, because I really wanted you to see this. This is when people are talking about, justifying the language, etc. And even when the paradigm of them giving the European credit for bringing us here, right? Just read this.
Okay. Note, at the appropriate time to be designated by the president, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency, working with local public officials during the first critical hours. All other leaders are to be detained at once. Compiled lists of minority leaders have been readied at the National Data Computer Center. it is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the president in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are agents with central and federal, and we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred in all its aspects. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. This move is not without precedent in American history. Attorney General. Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage.
Can you read that again and think Ferguson when you're reading this?
He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound